Welcome to the Monarch Group Podcast. Today is Morgan DeNoers with Pitt Frank, a leading real estate law firm here in Louisville. Morgan is deeply involved in helping buyers, sellers, and agents navigate their closing process with clarity and confidence. How you doing, Morgan?
Fantastic. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Nah, absolutely. Happy to have you here. I like to have people in the industry who know what they're talking about. I know you've got a wealth of knowledge, so I want to dive straight in and talk about, first off, your background, Pitt and Frank's background, how they get started, and what you'll do.
Yeah, so Pitt and Frank started in 1990, so we've been around, 35 years, if I'm doing lawyer math really well. But so Pitt and Frank started there. We're a real estate law firm. We have a title company as well as like an ancillary attachment to the business, but our main business is doing closings for residential, commercial, being a law firm, and I know we're going to get into this a little bit, so I don't want to do it now, but being a law firm, we can do a whole lot more than just closings, and that's one of the sort of shticks that I talk about when talking with clients is, we can do closings, but we don't just close the deal and then kick you out. It's, we can close the deal, we can do your wills, we can do everything else too.
That's good. So it's like a one-stop shop for everything.
Yeah, and I think that's what we kind of strive to be is I think people feel comfortable once they have the rapport at the closing table is not just, having their attorney say, this is all I do. I can find other people for you. Once you have that rapport with the client, it's being able to say, we can take care of all these things. We can build your business for you. We can put together plans. We can put together LLCs, corporations, trusts, all that stuff.
Wow. Would you say is that what sets Pitt and Frank apart from the other people? Because I know Louisville's blessed with a lot of great title companies, but is that what sets Pitt and Frank apart?
I would say so. And I think one of the biggest differences between us and a lot of the competition, and I know there are other businesses that operate in this way, but it's the fact that, again, I'm gonna sound like a broken record. It's the one-stop shop mentality of being able to go to one place. You get comfortable with the staff. You know who you're dealing with. You trust the person who did your closing, or whatever it may be. So if someone needs, they buy a house, which is oftentimes, and I think for everybody, the biggest investment someone's going to make. But they can also get their will done, which protects assets after death. They can get a trust if they want to. So I think that having the lawyer side along with the title side is a huge piece that makes us different.
Right, rather than having to go to separate places to get answers or information and just do it all under one roof. And how many attorneys does Pitt and Frank have?
We now have 7. So we had 6. We just added another one, which he had worked for us previously, but now so he had worked for us. That's Alex Gaddis, and now he's working back with Pitt and Frank, and he does a lot of our litigation stuff. So we've added that piece back to our sort of repertoire of things that we can do.
Nice, awesome. Still growing and still trying to do more for the clients out there in Louisville.
Yeah, of course, and I think, and I don't know if we'll get into this piece either, but there's a lot of pitfalls when it comes to buying and selling a house, and again, having a place that not only can you do the closing, but if there's any problems post-closing, we don't go, hey, can't do it. Sorry about your luck. We have that staff member now that we can handle those pieces as well.
Nice. Well, talking about pitfalls, it's almost like you've seen an agenda that I had about questions for you coming up for this podcast. Well, what are the common things that you're seeing at the moment? Because I know the market's changed a lot recently for everyone involved. So on the title side, what are you seeing that the changes and issues that are going on in the industry right now?
I think as far as title work goes, it's kind of the same. It's the same beast as what people probably have been seeing, but a lot of people who may watch the podcast may not be in the business like you and I are. So I think the biggest things that we see that are constant problems, easements, any title problems that can encumber a property, it's mostly going to be on the seller side. So we always do title searches on the front end, and we're looking for anything. The most common thing you're going to find is going to be a mortgage. So most people need financing to buy a house. So we're going to have to clear that up for the seller. We're going to have to pay that off. We may also see easements. That could be utility easements. That could be a neighbor who wanted to put a driveway in but didn't have enough, so they needed an easement to do that. It could be a number of things, but most title problems aren't going to be new things. It's just more of the same. And I think that speaks to the quality of the staff that we have, is that we've got people who've been there since the very beginning, who've got decades of experience. So there's nothing that they haven't seen. So most problems that come up, we either have an idea of how to solve it or we can figure it out very quickly.
Nice. That's a good benefit to have, especially for buyers, because like I said, not a lot of people know about what these things are. So a regular person would see this background, they'd be like, what the heck does this mean? Is this going to transfer over to me? Is this going to, pass into my name? So it's great that it's all taken care of. I know with you all, you find out everything. So it shouldn't be any issues going forward, even with getting a title insurance policy, which I'm sure you recommend for people.
Yeah, I definitely do. And yeah, I think with the experience piece, there's a lot of title companies that are a bit newer and they'll hire qualified staff. But I think Pitt and Frank being around for so long and having people who've been in the industry for as long as they have, it's amazing the amount of experience that our back staff has because they're really the ones solving the problems. A lot of the paralegals work with the attorneys closely. And whenever those problems come up, it's not calling the client and going, hey, this is a big major issue. This is going to, you know, the sky is falling, earthquakes happening, whatever. It's calling them with a plan ahead of time. So that way you can instill confidence in the buyer or seller to know that we are capable to get the deal done. And it's also the agents too. An agent doesn't want to send business to somebody who is going to freak their client out with a problem. So if we see something, we'll call somebody and say, hey, this has come up. This is an issue. Here's how we are going to solve it, or here's options to solve it. And here's what we think maybe the best way to do it is, but we give people different routes to take. And we try to, and again, instill confidence that the deal is going to get done.
Yeah, and that makes a big difference going forward. It's just we have a solution. It's not just leaving them in the darkness. It's we have a solution. Here's what we're going to do, just keeping you up to date with things. And a lot of the changes that I've mentioned, there are a lot of benefits, a lot of good things going on. But with that, there's also a lot of bad things. And I've seen an uptick online or in the news about sort of cyber fraud and how people are getting money stolen. How is that working on the title side? How is that affecting people?
Yeah, I think we actually see it quite a bit. And so I've been at Pitt and Frank for 4 years, and it seems like every single year there's more and more fraud or more problems that come up on that particular piece. So the title side stays relatively sort of an equilibrium. It's usually the same problems that come up on repeat, but the cyber fraud stuff is new. And what that usually is either sellers purporting that they own a piece of property and trying to sell it. And it could be they're doing it for sale by owner, so there's no agent involved to verify the identity of that seller. Sometimes agents just don't look and don't really figure it out. They'll come with, we had somebody who came in with an ID that said Daryl Isaacs, which everyone knows who Daryl Isaacs is, the Hammer. And we're like, that's clearly not the same person. So I think it's just being able to issue spot those things, verify identities. We do social security numbers. For that reason, we do driver's license to make sure. But we see a lot of fraud as far as the sellers go. On the buyer side, one of the problems is people will try and spoof our emails. So a buyer, let's say they're wanting to wire their money to buy the house to the title company. So we'll take the money, we'll use it, and they'll purchase the home. Oftentimes what could happen is they could get an email that looks very close to ours. There's a little thing wrong with the email line itself, but it's very close. And it says, hey, send your money here. And we've had people who bite and they send the money. And oftentimes first of all, that's why I like to do cashier's checks. In Indiana, you usually can't do it. You have to wire because the rules over there. But in Kentucky, I almost always recommend hand me money instead of wiring it to me. But just calling to verify and make sure on the buyer side, that's a huge thing to look out for. And we see that issue come up constantly, and it gets everybody. It's not like it's an uneducated buyer who it's their first house and they don't understand. We've seen seasoned buyers get nabbed and they send money to, overseas or wherever it may land at the end of the day.
And that's the thing with when people are moving, they've got a million and one things in their mind, and they just like trying to do things as efficiently as possible, get that email and just like, yep, another task knocked out. How can people protect themselves when going through the closing process for all of these issues?
I think it's always working with professionals. So first of all, and I guess this is a pitch for you guys, I think having a real estate agent at the end of the day that can really walk you through that process is so massively important, because real estate agents are supposed to be the guide. They're supposed to be like the Sherpa of the closing process and really walk people through it. But as people go through it, like in the example that I talked about with the wire fraud, and a buyer wiring their money to some other third party, calling the title company, going online and Googling, finding the phone number that's attached to the business page and calling that number. Don't call the number within the email because that could be spoofed as well. But really and I know people are always, they want to get things done and fast. It's really just taking that double check to really, and like be skeptical a little bit and make sure that you call to verify before you send your money to people.
Yeah, especially when it's like $100,000, because typically once it's gone, it's pretty hard to track down because they are quick to disperse it, right?
Very quick. The one time I'm thinking of, we got it back because they got the wire back very quickly. So we were lucky to catch it because the guy wired his money and then immediately was like, wait a second. That might not be Pitt and Frank. So they called us and we we're able to work with the bank to get that money back very quickly. But again, it took time. It delayed his closing because he was supposed to close the next day, and he couldn't. So we needed to get the money back before we could do that.
And that's why you said just clarify everything, whether it be with the real estate agent, with the title attorney, always just send it through. We've got a document that we says like we're never going to ask for money. So if you receive something from me that looks like asking for money, don't. I've also heard some people saying that in some of the emails or the letters, there's a small like fine print that says not actually affiliated with. Is that true that that's in there?
If it's going to be an email that's trying to spoof Pitt and Frank specifically or another title company, I don't know if they would put that, because at the end of the day, they're not trying to follow the rules. Where I see that oftentimes is going to be if someone buys a house, usually for the first like 6 to 12 months after they purchase the home, they're just going to get a ton of mail. And a lot of the time it's going to be like, you need to buy this insurance policy. You're going to lose your home. You know, you didn't buy this policy at closing. You need to buy it now for however much money, or you need to pay for a copy of your deed. And they'll have like the logo of like Monarch Group or Pitt and Frank or their lender, and it's all garbage for the most part. And again, it's like, before you spend money on something in real estate, like just call somebody to just double check and make sure. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, it's just a quick thing, and we've seen it also. It's like we know ahead of time and can just save you the trouble and hassle. Aside from those issues, going through the closing process and at closing, what are the most important documents that a buyer or a seller should be aware of?
So I would say on either side, a driver's license is obviously the biggest thing. For us, as far as verifying identity goes, we use a system called Qualia, which I believe that a lot of our competitors use the same software, but it's all online. You go in, you input all your information. It's fairly easy. And one of the things I'll say about that is some people are uncomfortable with using online sources to input sensitive information. So if someone wants to come in person and do that, more than happy to do it pen and paper style, like back in the old days. But I would say besides like, you know, inputting your information and giving that to us, the biggest documents is probably just the contract, making sure that, you know, and an agent should walk somebody through it, but I always encourage someone to go through and really read it just to understand it. I think the GLAR contract specifically is written very well. So just making sure that they know, you know, not only having the agent explain it to them, but we can do it as well if they really want us to, but I'd rather the agent obviously do that so we don't have to get involved in the contract process, but having someone go line by line and read it just so they know what they're getting into.
Right, because there's a lot of different nuances there, and like time frames and different meanings and results, and some wording seems a little vague, but if you understand it, you get what it means, and it's definitely advisable to go through that contract very thoroughly. Yeah, and then going on from the contract and from different closing issues, we're seeing a lot of AI in the industry right now. Are you seeing it show up in the title world or on your side of the table?
Not a ton on the title side, and I think the biggest thing that we see are contracts or contract provisions that are very clearly written by ChatGPT, which, you know, I may be different from other attorneys. I don't think ChatGPT is a bad tool to start. So using it to prompt ideas or generate thoughts of maybe how to word certain things, but taking it and copying and pasting it is probably not a good idea. But as far as for us, I could see maybe in the future, AI would have to be, it would have to improve a whole lot, but I could see maybe it could read a title report and pick out very specific things like this is the major issue. Here's maybe some ideas how to solve it according to Kentucky law. I could see that in the future, but the way AI sits right now, I don't see it replacing title processors or attorneys in the sense that like there's a ton of errors with the way it works right now.
So is it going to the blockchain?
What, title?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to put every house. It's going to also be an NFT. And you're gonna have to buy it with Bitcoin or Ethereum, and that's the way I'm just kidding. That's the way we're gonna go. It's all gonna be AI generated. I'm gonna be an AI attorney sitting at the end of the table, shaking hands and ChatGPTing all my responses, and I'll flip the iPad over at the end of the day and ask for tips. That's how that's gonna go.
And with an AI real estate agent and an AI buyer,
AI
and
buyer, AI
everyone's
seller,
AI.
AI table. Yeah. No, and I think, like again, I think AI is a good tool. I don't think it's advanced enough to really replace the thoroughness and the experience of a person and really like the creative thinking of a lawyer. So like we can see the rules, the precedent, the black and white, but going into the kind of the in-between, not necessarily the gray area, but just trying to find creative solutions to problems is the biggest service that we provide on a daily basis.
Yeah, and that human touch is never going to be able to be replaced by that. It's just not. There's, like you said, there's definitely benefits to things like that, but the human touch is never going to be replaced. Back to working with title companies as a whole. what is the difference at the closing table or going through the process of having an attorney and not having an attorney? Because there's lots of companies out there that don't. How are they varying?
It's interesting. Every single time I talk to somebody, whether it's a friend or family or, some whoever, and I tell them that in Kentucky, you don't have to have an attorney. Now, they have to prep deeds and do legal work like that, illegal paperwork, but you don't have to have attorneys in a title company at all. And a lot of people are kind of surprised at that they go, wait a second, you're telling me that when I buy my house, the person sitting at the end of the table is not going to be an attorney? So I think the main benefit of that is twofold. First, in the process itself, we have attorneys constantly looking at files. We try to touch files every week to make sure that everything is going properly. If there's anything wrong, we solve it quickly. And then at the table itself, I'm sure in your experience, sometimes things just don't go correctly at the table. Somebody wants something additional to happen, or maybe they didn't get their way throughout the process and they want to, throw a fit then. Having an attorney sitting at the end of the table that can solve the problem then and there, and they don't have to go, wait a second, I've got to go find an attorney. I've got to go call somebody. It's having somebody there who has a legal license, has passed the bar, has the experience to solve the problem then and there, and doesn't have to go, let me go get my, whoever.
Mm-hmm. And not a lot of people understand exactly who the representation is on that attorney side, because when someone's buying a house, they think that the attorney's there for them, but they're really for the lender, correct?
Well, so we say that we represent the transaction. Ultimately, the way it's characterized is we do represent the lender's best interest. So we're really making sure that the lender and how they lend on the home, they are lending on a piece of property that doesn't have any other lenders involved. There's no other debts to be paid. They're first in line once the property actually gets bought and sold. But I like to take it a step further and say we're representing the whole transaction itself. So my goal is to make sure that seller is happy, buyer is happy, lender is happy, to make sure that by the end of the deal, all parties have done things that they understand. They've transferred the property that they meant to transfer, so nothing's getting sold that they didn't mean to sell, or vice versa, they didn't mean to buy it. And just making sure that at the end of the day, the legal work is correct. Everyone has a good experience. The closing table experience is so important that we have so many different personalities in the office. My boss, Cora, and my coworker, Liz, are both very bubbly personalities, whereas I'm usually very even keeled. So different scenarios call for different people. And I think just making sure everyone has a good experience at the end of the day. So I would, to wrap it around, I would say the transaction is probably who our ultimate representation is for.
And I think the most important thing about the closing table at Pitt Frank is the chocolates on the table.
Yeah. So it's so funny because everyone who has closed with us multiple times, the one thing they're always looking for, we have Hershey's Kisses. We're seasonal. So for Halloween, we'll have Halloween decorated ones. For Valentine's Day, we rock out the cherry Hershey's Kisses. I'm not a big chocolate guy, unfortunately, but I know that clients come in and usually half of the bowl is gone by the time the closing is done.
Yeah, that's just me.
Yeah, it is you. 100%.
I just sit there quietly, listen to everything, and eat the chocolate. That's what I do.
Just nod and go, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's because you do your job on the front end, so there's nothing to fix on your deals. You're just yeah, I'm here to hang out and eat Hershey's Kisses.
Yeah, I actually eat them throughout the process. Yeah, it's just standard for me.
Just stop in and say, hey, can I have some?
Yeah. You are very familiar with the Louisville contract. What would you say is the most important part in that, or something that you really want? I know you said read it all, but is there one section that you think is super important for buyers to understand?
So I think there's two parts. One, that there was the change. They added the seller concessions onto the front page, and I've seen that missed. I've seen it missed less now that people are more familiar with it. But there were some times where a buyer would ask for seller concessions on the front page at the very bottom, and they check it and put a money amount. The seller accepts it, and the agent didn't realize that it was checked and filled out. And the seller goes, wait a second, I'm giving $4,000 to the buyer, and we didn't mean to. I would say the other one is the inspection period. Mainly because that's the inspection process is usually where most issues are going to come up in a closing. So knowing deadlines, knowing timelines to be able to not only have the inspection performed by the qualified inspection company, but also having the deadlines in place that whenever you're going to ask for repairs, when you have to do it, when you have to respond by, if you're going to say yes or no, and that sort of thing. So I see a lot of times where an agent might call us and go, yeah, we're about 12 hours behind the inspection. Can I still ask for repairs? Or, yeah, the buyer asked for repairs and I was on vacation. I forgot to respond. And I kind of go, yeah, you're kind of locked into that. So just making sure you know your timelines is the biggest thing. That goes for the whole thing, the whole contract, really.
Yeah, and I'd definitely echo that. The repercussions from not responding to a repair request, because people just think, oh, it'll mean nothing. No, accepted. If you know, it says in the contract, if it's not responded to within a certain timeline, then it's pretty much accepted. So good luck with that,
Yeah.
trying to change it afterwards. And there's a lot of people on the other side of the table who will stick to that as well. There's some people who may be a bit flexible, but for the most part, people are going to be like, hey, you know what you were signing ahead of time. Now, are you from Louisville?
Yeah, originally born and partially raised. So I lived here until I was 13, and then I moved to sunny Jacksonville, Florida. So go Jags. We just beat the Chiefs. But then we lost to the Seahawks, so, up and down. But yeah, I'm from Louisville originally. I grew up here. I went to Christian Academy while I was here, moved to Florida, and then went to college in Georgia. And then really, I've got friends here. I've got family here. So when I was picking law schools, it was either I was going to go to a school called Stetson in Tampa, or I was going to go to U of L. And U of L just ended up being home. And so now I'm also indebted to be a Cards fan forever.
Nice. And
unfortunately.
What do you love about living and working here in Louisville?
Yeah, so I think being somebody who's lived in a couple major cities. So when I lived in Jacksonville's the biggest land city in the country, and there's tons of stuff to do, tons of different character all over the city. I also lived about an hour outside of Atlanta in Georgia, where I went to college, in a little small town. I say the biggest thing about Louisville is the people. Everyone knows everybody, which is it's a good and bad thing. As long as you keep your nose clean, it's a good thing. So I've got tons of friends, and if I have problems or if I need something, really, I am one phone call away from finding somebody who cares and can do that. There's also tons of stuff to do. We've got really good food, which is good and bad, again, for somebody's waistline. But Kashmir Indian and off of Bardstown Road is like my favorite. My wife is English, unfortunately, as well. So going there all the time is great. So there's tons of great food, tons of stuff to do. We got professional soccer. We're about to have professional football. We got the Cards. So it's just a different city than anywhere. It's kind of masquerading as a southern city and a Midwestern city at the same time. So I think best of both worlds.
Yeah, I agree. I always tell people it's the best big city, small town that you can have. It's got the best of both worlds. And I usually don't edit these podcasts, but just that one comment about the English, I'm going to change that because I find that very offensive.
That's fine.
From this side of the table, from being from England. So I'm going to change that.
That's why I said
I'm
that.
definitely telling your wife as well, making sure she is aware of what you've said. Actually, I'm calling England. I was going to say the Queen, but she's deceased. I'm going to call the King and be like, hey, listen here. This is what's just been said.
This is one guy. There's one guy in Kentucky, in Louisville, Kentucky, who keeps saying bad things about the British.
Yeah, either never let him in, or when he comes in, never let him out. One of the two. That's going to be your punishment for it.
I'll stay. England's a great country. I'll go over there and hang out. No problem. I'll get some pork pies and some sausage rolls. Hang out. Go to Greg's.
That's on the record.
Go to Greg's and what's the grocery store?
It's Tesco's.
Tesco's. That's what it is. Yeah, go to a Tesco. Go to a co-op in the corner. That's what we need in this country is co-ops.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
And a Tesco Express. That's what I'd go for.
Yeah, get rid of Kroger, get rid of Walmart. Let's get a Tesco in here.
Yeah. So you said Kashmir was your favorite restaurant? Because that's typically my question that I ask people is, what's your favorite restaurant in Louisville? So is that your one?
I would say Kashmir is a slam dunk, number one, because the food is not only really good, but it's good. Like there's some restaurants you go to, the food is good once, second time it's like, third time it's good, and it's kind of a seesaw. Kashmir, every single time I order there, it's always it's phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree with you. I live too close to that, and it takes a lot of willpower to not eat there more than I do. But once you have it once, you get that craving. And the thing is, though, with that food and Indian food and Kashmir food, it is one of the best foods to leave in the fridge and heat up the next day because it only gets better, in my opinion.
It does. So what's your order?
Probably a chicken korma.
Chicken korma, so basic. I'm a lamb vindaloo. Lamb vindaloo, like a medium kind of spice sort of deal. You're probably no spice.
Yeah, I go medium. I go medium. I can handle that. I'll be sweating a little bit, but I can handle it.
But it's worth it because again, like the way some Indian restaurants, the spice just like literally lights you up, and there's no like taste behind it. Kashmir actually there's flavor in the spices, so it just makes it so much better.
I'm probably gonna go there today. Now
I went there yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah.
No invite. Couldn't believe it. Shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for people in the Louisville area and Southern Indiana, because I know you work in that area as well, is there any sort of last bit of advice you want to give people towards title work, whether it be selling a house, buying a house, or basically any of the services that you'll provide?
Yeah, I think giving one piece of advice is tough, but if I had to pick one thing, it's making sure that you know who you're working with. There's a lot of newer title companies, newer real estate agents, newer lenders, and not to discount lack of experience, but I think experience is the main differentiator between different businesses. So a title company like us, or I like to call us a real estate law firm more than a title company, but having someone like us, or yourself, who's been in the business and seen a lot of different things, working with a professional who knows their stuff is the biggest thing. And don't be afraid to interview several. And a lot of people don't think about the title company at all. They just kind of go where their agent goes, or recommends, or their lender. But going and reading up on them and saying, is this the best quality of service for my scenario? And I would say one of the biggest things we strive for is every situation is different. Every person is different. So having a one singular process for everybody just doesn't work. So if someone's buying their first house, they may need more care. They may need more explanation. We're more than happy to do that. If someone's working with an estate and selling the house of someone who just passed away, that's usually very emotional for good reason. Or if they're selling a house that they've lived in for 30 years and that was their first home, making sure that the care is there and the white glove service, which is often said by a lot of people. But I truly think that we try to embody that.
Great. I think that's great advice. Definitely making sure that the people you're working with have your best interest in mind. And it's not just a transaction. It's not just a deal. It's they want your best interest. And they're the people who have the experience because they've been doing it for a long time, because they have a lot of people's best interest in mind. And how do people get hold of you? Where are your locations at?
Yeah, so we've got a few different offices. The main one is 500 North Hurstburn Parkway. We're in Suite 130 on the first floor. Very easy to get to. We've also got an office in New Albany, Indiana. I think it's on Charlestown Road, if I remember correctly. But we have both those locations. Our phone number is 502-895-9900. So if you need to get a hold of us, you can always call us. You'll talk to Debbie. Debbie's our front desk. I call her the gatekeeper, and she's amazing. Pretty much all the staff's amazing. But yeah, and if people want to ask questions, or if they say, hey, we're thinking about buying a house, what kind of things, do we need to look out for in our specific situation? Because I'm kind of talking in generalities a lot of the ways, or a lot of the time. But having someone call us and say, here's what I'm dealing with, how do I solve the problem, and really diving into the details is probably the most important piece.
Nice. Okay. And what's your website?
Pittandfrank.com. So PITTANDFRANK.com.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you being on. I know you've got a wealth of knowledge. I know Pitt and Frank does. So I definitely recommend people out there that are going through anything which requires your services, definitely recommend giving you a call. And we'll put all of your information down the bottom for people to go with. So yeah, appreciate you being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Sorry about the British comments. I'll take that all back.
It's not going to be forgiven. But for all of you people out there, thank you for watching again. Please check the space for future episodes. And all the information will be in the description.